Well, well, well.
Morning.
How are you? Look at that smile. I can't even pretend to be mad at you for a second.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was like trying to get the visuals going up and such, so but also had to work on the lighting. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
appreciate your
Don't even
patience.
don't even worry about it. It's an audio only podcast intentionally. It makes it easier for me to edit because video is just really frustrating to edit because it makes it look really choppy, but I will say I like having the video just so I can see you, and then, we know that we're both here, and then I can talk with my hands if I need to, if we wanna sign in code for the
Right on.
eavesdroppers.
Okay.
Um, how are you doing today?
Very calm. It's been a good day. Got my workout in, and it's almost a Friday, so I can't be upset.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. Were you wearing a nurse's outfit to work out?
No, funny enough, I'm a medical device rep. So yesterday I was touring apartments and such to move in. So that was a different thing. Today was a different one. So yeah, don't
Oh,
work it.
well,
Yeah.
I am so actually, let's go ahead and get started and introduce you so we can tell everyone who you are. So I'll begin with the three questions I ask every podcast guest, which is hello, hi, who are you? How do we know each other? And where can people find you online?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Ella. I'm excited to get started. Yeah, we met at WealthCon back in October, Ryan Pineda's event, and just a little networking session, and kind of shared like interest. And I was like, oh, if you have the podcast going, let me hop on. So it's a kind of foreshadowing. I'm happy it came to fruition.
Yes, yes, I love that. I will also say I didn't realize, maybe I missed that you're a medical device rep.
Yeah, medical device sales rep here in town. So whenever someone breaks their bone, they go see the doctor. And if they don't heal fast enough, the doctor reaches out to us and we help get them a medical device to help with their bone healing. So we work with everyone from your grandma to the professional athlete in town.
Nice. And when you say here, where are you?
I'm currently in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, you're based in Las Vegas where the conference was.
Yeah, so just it was right down the road. So just it made sense, just worked out.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, WealthCon, for anyone who's listening, Ryan Pineda is this brilliant real estate mind and thought leader. And we attended one of his events and it was so inspiring. But I think what I love about attending conferences is not only that I'm learning or refreshing on things I need to know as I dive more deeply into real estate, but just being able to connect with really bright leaders of tomorrow. So I immediately was enamored with your light, and I mean, anyone who sees your smile, it's impossible to feel bad about yourself when I see that bright smile. And I'm really, really happy we connected. And I'm excited to talk more about your background. I know that one of the things that we connected on is we were sitting in this like VIP area. I was a guest. I can't pretend I'm a VIP guest. I'm not a real VIP. You were real
I don't know
VIP.
about that. I don't know. We agree to disagree on that one.
But can you tell me a little bit about some of your aspirations? I know one of the things you said, which I'm the same way. I feel the same way, is we both aspire to be the first millionaires in our families. And I want to talk a little bit more about the pressures and motivations that you have with some of the goals that you're setting.
Yeah, right on. As the oldest child to two Nigerian parents, there's always expectations put on me. Uh, Doing well in school to being a good role model for my siblings, it it brought a different drive that I don't think I would have had if it wasn't for my upbringing. How seeing what my dad had to do to just survive in this economy in this society. He's like 5'7", Nigerian accent, and we I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, and which is like 85% Caucasian. So he was already kind of sticking out, and he was able to build a life for himself. For me, my brother and sister, and my mom. When we first moved to America, I was 3, my brother was 2, my brother was 1, and my mom took care of all of us in a small apartment in West Des Moines. So I really learned dedication and what grit was. So that kind of tossed over to where I am today, moving out to Las Vegas, being a medical device rep, I saw that there was more for me. Looking around and seeing where my peers were, and also seeing where my coworkers were, I knew that I was on the right path, and that that had me shooting far. If you asked me 3 years ago, Ella, if I would be in Las Vegas, Nevada, I would tell you absolutely not. That's out of the cards. But it just kind of proves that you never know what can happen to your life in a 3 year span. So, shooting big and surrounding myself with motivated, high achievers has changed my life and changed my perspective. And become the first millionaire in my family, it's not a matter of if, just a matter of when. So I'm excited and I'm chugging along on that journey.
Yes, I love that, and, I know that you're very much on that path and trajectory, but I wanna talk a little bit about being, we'll say, first generation. I my mother, similar to you, right? So my mother moved
Mm,
here when she was 3. So I'm really quick to claim the daughter of an immigrant, but, similar to you, right? Like, you moved here when you were 3. Yes, you're an immigrant, but it's not the same as the story of as your father, right? Like,
right.
your father really had to build a life. My mother has speaks, perfect English, no accent, similar to you, very similar to you. So it would be like if your children were like, "Yeah, I'm the I'm the daughter of an immigrant," right? Now
Mm,
there are nuances to that, but if I can, knowing that you're Nigerian, I do wanna talk about this a little bit because something that I've seen, and feel free to correct my ignorance here, is that so my mother was born in Mexico. So I'm the daughter of a Mexican immigrant. I'm very proud of my Mexican heritage and culture. And growing up in Southern California, Mexico's right there. So it's really easy to get the culture because it very much permeates into the California culture. Nigeria, however, is a little bit further away.
mhm.
And something that's always fascinated me about immigration from, we'll say North America, Mexico, versus another continent, a really far away continent like Africa or Asia, is that my assumption would be is that you have to have some money to get here.
Yeah, some sort of funds definitely helps. It seems like families are always being spread out these days. So when I moved to Vegas, I found out I had an uncle here in town. So it's like we're spread out in different spots. Definitely getting over here is the biggest hurdle. Paying for that flight, a grand or two, just to make it over to America. But there's all sorts of different programs. I know a lot of Nigerians come here for education, so that's like their kind of ticket into the United States. But yeah, you definitely need some sort of funds to make that journey
Well,
happen.
and taking that a little bit further, now I'll be honest, my mother came here totally legally and went through paperwork and processes, and I'll get into that in a different episode, but I will say that my assumption is on the outside, most of the Nigerians I know are very wealthy.
They do well for themselves. I
So
agree.
so is this a misconception of mine? Because my assumption is, okay, as America, we are getting the wealthiest, most educated, best, brightest immigrants from other countries. And so my assumption might be that as a Nigerian, you come from money. Can you talk about that a little bit? But then I don't understand how you ended up in Des Moines.
Yes, that's a great question. When you look at country like Nigeria, it's what, the seventh most populated country in the world. So it's filled with different people with different backgrounds and cultures. I kind of compare it to the United States of Africa, just because of the infrastructure, the businesses, entrepreneurship, and different softwares going on in the country. Uh, Funny enough, my story, my parents grew up in Nigeria. My dad spent some time in the Ukraine, and then from there they immigrated to Madrid, Spain. I was born there in '99, and they were walking one day and they saw something about like some green lottery type thing. They went to go check it out, and it ended up being the Visa Green Card Lottery. So, out of a couple million people in Madrid, they end up winning and got to relocate to anywhere in the world. U.S. was top of their list, and my godfather at the time, he lived in Iowa. So my parents' only requirement was to move to somewhere quiet. And 2001 in West Des Moines, Iowa was where we planted and set our roots. So yeah, it's funny how it's a full circle moment there.
Yeah, well, and that's why I love talking to immigrants from other countries other than Mexico, because I feel like it's just such a different experience when you can quite literally walk over the border where I grew up, right? So, I mean, there's a
Hmm.
literal walking gate where you can walk in and out of both countries depending on your citizenship and so forth and paperwork. But it's such a different experience. And then to know the European aspect of, like, you guys went to Europe first, your family migrated to Europe and then came to the US. It's very fascinating to me. Would
Hmm.
you say, though, and again, I'm not just speaking on myself, these are some conversations that I've had behind closed doors. What would you say to someone who makes the assumption that because of your family's ability to move across different continents and then settle down in America, they just assume that you didn't have some of the strife and hardships that maybe some of the poorer, quote, immigrants from other countries in North America, South America might have experienced? Like, would it be fair to say that you didn't have any struggles growing up?
Yeah, fair question. And to have the means just to come to the United States alone is just a blessing. Whether you won a Visa green card lottery like my parents did, or your family comes from money, comes from wealth, and it was an easy decision. However, what I found is it doesn't matter how you came to the United States, you still get treated like everybody else around you. Growing up in a place like Des Moines, Iowa, uh, I grew up in the city. However, Iowa is 85% Caucasian. So a lot of times I was the only black kid in my class. I was the only black kid on my team. And this brought another level of adversity that I didn't really expect until I got there, and you don't see many faces that look like you. And it really, at the end of the day, they don't know your background, but they still treat you any way they want to. So definitely found some hardships and just identity issues when I was younger, just because you saw the different privileges your friends had versus what your parents had, since they didn't come from money. My dad was the oldest of 11, so they really had to work on themselves and fend for themselves and build their own lives. So definitely found myself finding some detriments in my path as a child growing up here in the United States. But I feel like we all have our own stories and we all have our own stuff, and you can only play with the cards you've been dealt. So I did the best I could, and it's brought
Yeah.
me this far.
Well, and okay, so I'm deviating from what we were going to talk about a little bit because I'm really interested and I
Let's
love your
do it.
mind. I
Let's
love your
do
mind.
it.
So this is one of my qualms. I'm a little bit I'm 10 years older than you are. And I will say one of the qualms that I have right now. So I too grew up as one of, not only, I always say I'm not just a minority in society, I'm a minority in my family. My
Mm,
mother is Mexican. My father is black, right? I am the only black Mexican woman in my entire family. So when we're talking about minorities, right? Like am I going to say that because I'm Mexican, I don't have a connection with my father? No, I'm his
mhm,
daughter. These are my biological parents, for clarification. And my mother, she's not black, right? And so I have a bit of a qualm about this narrative of, well, because I'm the only one, I had a hardship. And I feel like that is a narrative that's being toted around a little bit, and I find it disappointing because the way that I grew up as, quote, a minority in my family, right? I'm literally the only black Mexican woman in my family, let alone in just about every room I've ever been in my whole life. Um
mm,
the only black voice, the only Latina voice, the only black Latina voice, the only female. I mean, I've yet to ever be in a room with the population looking 25% like me in any capacity.
mhm,
And so it doesn't get more minority than I think my background on that front. And yet, because in a room full of, Nigerians, I'm still the black Mexican different one, right?
right.
And so I've never seen that as an adversity. I've never seen that as something that I've had to overcome. I've seen that as a way of standing out. I've always seen it as a strength that I'm able to bridge gaps and to say, I get you because I am you, and I
Mhm,
understand what it feels like to be different, and whether it's my skin color doesn't mean that I'm any less my mother's daughter because we have different skin, right? I am my mother, and so I learned just by being that your skin color doesn't really matter because I'm my mother's daughter, not because of the color of my skin. And I struggle and just like you, right? I went to
Mhm.
I grew up in Orange County, California, very predominantly Asian and white.
Mhm.
So you add that layer as well, right? So I too was a minority, but I feel that I'm seeing this trend of, well, I'm the only blank in a room, and whether it's like I'm the only black voice and or I'm the only, Asian voice and all of these things. Can you talk a little bit about like what that adversity it I will add this as well. I was also picked on like crazy. I was picked on for so many reasons. My parents were the only ones who were divorced. I grew up without a mother that was super present. My dad was a single father. He was the one showing up to things instead of moms. I also got picked on. I've never attributed it to my ethnicity. Maybe as I look back as I'm older, that could be a part of it. I was picked on about my hair a lot. I maybe didn't make the connection that my hair looked different because I wasn't white or Asian, right? So I'm willing to admit that that was part of it. Um, I just don't know that I'm special in my getting picked on. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to take away from your story. I just am curious if there's more to it than just my skin color was different than my cohorts. Is that fair? I'm gonna have to chop a bunch of this because spoke way too long.
No, you crushed it, and it's one thing to be a different ethnicity in the room, but it's also knowing the nuances that come with that. Uh, having a father who was around more than a mother, and depending on what city you're in, it brings its own different levels and challenges. Being half Mexican and half black, that brings its own different challenges there. And I feel like as a youth, as a teenager, we're all just trying to fit in. I remember high school felt like life back then, and you just want people to like you at the end of the day. So, how do you go about people liking you without hurting your self image and without devaluing yourself? And what I found is that even though I am African American. My parents have accents, and they had different rules than some of my other friends. Like, for example, sleepovers wasn't a thing. The idea of staying at someone's house and then asked to stay the night that same day was non-existent where I came from. So it's easy to use our different backgrounds and our skin color to kind of put barriers on ourselves, and almost this victim mentality, woe is me. But I've learned all you can do is focus on what you can control. And I was a good communicator. I enjoyed smiling. I was always kind to people. I was an extrovert. And I started using my uniqueness as a superpower. I know you have different talents and characteristics that separate you from the rest, which it's easy to use that as a crutch, but it's more powerful to use it as a superpower, as an asset to your everyday persona. I say this all the time: the world has too many average people. We have enough complacent people. We have enough people that want to be just like the next person. We don't have enough people who want to stand out or be different or be that trailblazer. Because there's someone that's listening right now, Ella, that is half Mexican, half black, who has self doubts, and you are that person that's giving them that motivation. I always say, when you get out of your cave, it gives someone motivation to get out of their own cave. So I never let my skin color be a detriment. I've never let it hold me back or be a barrier. I've always stayed positive, focus on what I control, be the best communicator I can, and never put myself in a box. I think the worst thing a person can do is limit themselves when they don't have to limit themselves. So that's kind of my perspective on it all. And these things that can be easily used to hold yourself back could be your biggest superpower.
Absolutely. And I would say that for me, if I focused on only finding people who looked like me, I would run dry very quickly. And if I focused on
Right.
only inspiring or working with people who only look like me, again, I don't even have that in my own family. So let alone out in society, right? And so and Black and Mexican, by the way, is a very weird, not weird, it's just a very rare mix. You don't see it often. We say Blaxican. There are not a lot of us out there. There are more over time, but it's just not. Like, I don't see that mix often, and that's okay. That's great. Most people assume I'm Dominican or Puerto Rican or Cuban, and that's perfectly fine because ultimately I want to empower people based upon more a diversity of thought. I think that that's what I wish that we could focus on a little bit more. I think we're getting a little too caught up on the skin color these days, and it's like, why don't we talk about our similarities? My next book, I think, is gonna be called A Fly in a Bowl of Milk, and it's just gonna be about how I stand out everywhere I go. I know you stand
That's
out everywhere you go.
nice.
You're beautiful, first of all. For anyone who wants
Appreciate
to
you.
look at you, you are, you're stunning.
I
I
thank
think
my mama. Thank my mama.
Oh my gosh. I really love what you said. I love how you articulate yourself. Do you feel like when you think about where you came from and where you are today and the incredible things that you're doing, especially within the real estate space and from a wealth building standpoint, do you feel that you are breaking generational cycles? And can you talk a little bit about how your background is becoming a catalyst for your desire to build a life and career that you're really, really proud of?
Yes, great point. I growing up somewhere like Iowa, most people don't know where Iowa is located. Even those who live in America don't know where Iowa is located. So it was a very quiet place. I grew up in a sleepy town. I left my car door unlocked. Front door was unlocked for some time. It's unlike a place you've ever been before. People are proud to be from there, but that doesn't mean that there weren't struggles and issues. Being the only black kid in some of my classes, it made me feel like I wanted to fit in sometimes, or my classmates would put this persona on me that I should be acting a certain way or talking a certain way because of my skin color. And that was something I really had a battle with. It's like, I played soccer. I'm not good at basketball, believe it or not. And it's like these different stereotypes. To fit in, I felt like I had to conform to them. But knowing that I brought my own strengths to the table is really what made me stand out. Uh, Being a black male and growing up around other black men, when I do talk to them as a youth, I found a lot of them wanted to be professional athletes, or they wanted to be rappers and artists, or they want to be movie stars. But not everyone's 6'5", not everyone has a great voice. So it really comes down to what else is there. And I wanted to be that one that stands out. I didn't want to be known for my sports abilities. I wanted to be that professional athlete. And when I turned 19 and I found that business, entrepreneurship, sales, and marketing was a passion of mine, it gave me a way out. It gave me a new purpose. And I didn't have to move with the status quo. I didn't have to move with what the expectations of what other people had for me. So my goal for the future is to be that business owner that black men look up to. They want to start their own businesses. They want to invest in real estate. They want to learn about personal development. They didn't want to do the stereotypical be an athlete, be a rapper, be this and that, and kind of place them in these boxes that society almost it enhances and endorses. We love when someone becomes a professional athlete because of the fame and the nice things that come with it. But realistically, not everyone can achieve that. Kobe's Kobe for a reason. Kanye's Kanye for a reason. So it is what else is there. And I'm using my tools, I'm using my strengths, I'm using my gifts to break out and pave a path for myself. And my biggest goal is just to give courage to other people who look like me to not put themselves in a box and utilize their strengths and do what they feel like is right. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I do want to say that, almost contradicting what I said earlier, I absolutely think it is so important that we have multiple role models. I do think that there's a big importance of having a role model that we find similarities with. And a lot of times that is going to be how we look, whether we like it or not. And of course, that is something I've struggled to find, right? If anyone can send me a Black, Mexican, American, female business role model, please do. I would love to find her because I'm the only one I know. But I think that it would have been nice. It would have been really nice if I had that. And I completely agree. Something that hurts my heart a little bit. I love the arts. I love sports. I love those. But we absolutely have more avenues of success for Black men in this country outside of sports and entertainment. We do not just have to entertain other people to be successful. And I think that
Preach, preach.
that is a very disappointing narrative and discourse. And I'm going to add military in that as well.
Mm.
I will say, and this is a little controversial, okay, but when we look at men from older generations, so a generation above me and above, so not today, but above, okay, successful men, almost always Black men, almost always. I love exceptions if you can send them my way, but it's going to be that they had one of three avenues: sports, starting at the college level, right? Sports, entertainment, military. And the fact that those are the three paths of success for Black men in this country drives me nuts, because we absolutely need more advocacy in other spaces. That's going to be in the tech space, the engineering spaces, the business spaces. We are not just entertainers. And that does drive me nuts. And so when people are able to break barriers and get past the, well, no one looks like me, so I can't do it. It's like, no, someone's got to break the barrier. I do believe that absolutely, and I think that that's why I really was so happy to have you on. I love empowering women. I really, really do. But what I'm frustrated with about today is that this female empowerment movement has come at the price of disempowering men, and I find that disgusting. I am absolutely a feminist, but I'm finding myself having more difficult difficulty identifying as a feminist because of some of the degradation of men in this society and how we are no longer valuing men. And I think that's what I really loved about you, is that men need safe spaces. They need spotlight. Men bring value to this society. And I think that's why I love what you're creating with your podcast, Dawg Days, which we're going to need to link that in the show notes, where you are helping men bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to be. Can you tell me a little bit about the most significant piece of advice you've been able to give through your podcast?
Yes, I think one of the big things I mentioned one of my earlier episodes was choosing your heart, as well as you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof you are who you say you are. I'm regurgitating Alex Ramosi, but he's one of my business mentors I look up to, and it's all about, if you doubt yourself, if you don't know if you're worthy for a relationship or a job or a career or just any path, you have to ask yourselves, what have I done in the past to make me qualified for who I am right now? In terms of, for example, I was scared to move away from home. I ended up driving 20 hours west to Vegas, and I had to ask myself, am I ready for this move? And I told myself, I have been independent. I've traveled overseas. I know how to communicate with people. I could find a way when I persevere and I mess up. But it's giving myself the stack of proof that, okay, I am able to do these things. And I agree with you 100%. I don't think it's a touchy subject. I think it should be talked about more. We need to empower men, because we live in a society where men are kind of taking the easy route out. We have so many different things that make life easy. You don't need to go to the gym these days. You have entertainment at the touch of, at your tips of your hands. Netflix is around. I don't have to go out and interact or socialize. I can get on Tinder or Instagram. I don't have to make my own meals when I could just DoorDash every day. Life has made life easier, but almost too easy to an extent. To whereas there's a lot of guys going through mental health issues. I would say 80% of people who take their lives are male. In terms of dating. It's making it harder to date. COVID did not make communication and it didn't enhance the communication. So what I found is there's a lot of guys who are down in the dumps and they don't like where they are mentally, physically, and spiritually. So one of the best pieces of advice is by having the proof to back up who you are and to build that confidence in you so you can achieve more things. And it really comes down, Ella, it's if you don't have the proof, create the proof. It can start today. It's you can be that person, even though you're not where you want to be right now. What you do today can help build a block and almost pay yourself forward to achieving and become that person you want to be later. So that's I agree with you 100%.
That was really good. That was awesome. May I ask, are you technically Gen Z or millennial? You're on the cusp.
I don't even know. I
So
honestly don't
it's
even know.
95, you're on the you're a millennial. You're technically no. You were born after before 9/11, right? Right
Correct.
before? Yeah, so
Yeah, right before.
you are you're on the cusp. You're right at 2000. So yeah, you're a millennial technically, but you give me Gen Z vibes, which is a compliment. I'm trying
Let's
so
go.
hard to pretend I'm Gen Z. I'm just really trying to make that work, which only makes me more of a millennial. I think we try. We're trying hard, and because you're very driven. I love hearing you speak. I love what you just said. The proof, the proof. I'm dealing with that with my business right now. Like I need social
Mm,
proof. I need people to talk about, hey, this is what she's done, and it can't just be me saying it. But I think that for ourselves, we need that proof.
mhm.
My dad put in my yearbook, and I hated this quote, but I'm learning to appreciate it when I'm getting older. His quote to me was that should it ever be illegal to be a person of character, I hope there's enough evidence to convict you. Such a weird ass way of saying be a good person. Like, could you not just say be a good person? You had to be all weird and colloquial with it. But I think that's exactly what you're saying. Whatever you want to be, create the evidence, the proof to convict yourself of that. I love that. I think that that's beautiful. And, I will say before I ask the last question as we start closing out, typically when I'm talking to the guests, I know what their answers are going to be, or I assume, and I assume correctly. I have to be honest. I don't know what your answer is going to be here because, from a spiritual perspective, I'm guessing it might be spiritual, but from a spiritual perspective, you seem to have a great, resolute, like a resolve within you. Emotionally, it seems like you've got an incredible head on your shoulders. You didn't falter too much when I was challenging some of your ideas. Financially, I know you're killing it, and I know you're only going to keep growing. And then physically, you're fit, you're in incredible shape, you're young, you're healthy, you're working out, you're not doing the DoorDash and Netflix thing. I don't know within my self balance philosophy which dimension you're the strongest or where you're hoping to grow, because it seems like you kind of got it all down pat. So I genuinely am curious now, when we look at my Ceph balance, which talks about spiritual, emotional, financial, and physical health and success, where do you feel the strongest and where are you helping to develop a little bit more?
Uh, I found myself also finding an issue answering that question because I've done the work to be as well rounded as I can in all those aspects. And that's why I started Dawg Days, helping guys be dialed in mentally, physically, and spiritually, because I don't feel like I have a PhD in life. I'm not a guru or anything, but I've had all these different life experiences and habits that have really shaped the person I am today. If I had to choose one, I think my mental is the strongest of them all. Even though I am in pretty good physical shape, uh, being strong mentally has changed my life. It's helped me take a step back and observe the people around me and see how little things can get to people, how these things that look so huge in people's eyes doesn't really affect me at all. And that's been able to not just help myself stay cool and calm in the times where pressure gets high, but also be guidance and be that mentor for the people around me, whether it's my siblings or my brother's friends or the people I go to church with. And in terms of growth, I would say my spiritual walk can always get better. I'm always learning. I grew up in church. My mom, Nigerian family. My mom used to rip the covers off me Sunday mornings so we don't get late to church. She prays 3 times a day ever since I remembered, and I was always close in the church back in Iowa until I moved to Vegas and I found my own community here. This was a talkback church where people would stand up in the middle of the congregation and they would talk back to the pastor and they would put their hands up and they would worship whenever they wanted to. And that's when I really felt the power of faith and God and religion, as well as I moved on and lived in a place like Sin City, Las Vegas, you really see the issues in today's society. You really see how people people lose their souls and they give up their dreams, goals, and visions for their wants and instant gratification. And that's all these things have really helped bring me closer to God and closer to my faith. And I know there's so much more I can learn. There's so much more that I can absorb, not just to help myself fill up my own cup, but to also have discernment to keep good people around me and give good advice to those who ask for it. So I've seen people who walk with faith, and I've seen people who don't walk with faith. I want the people with faith, I want their lives 100% because I've seen people kind of live by their own understanding. And I truly believe people are here looking for an escape in all sorts of different avenues, whether it's entertainment or alcohol or this or that. But I found that with faith, with Christ, it gives us an encounter, something that's pure, something that's super genuine, and that is long lasting. So definitely can always grow in my spiritual walk.
I love that. And for anyone who is listening, I do want to say I feel compelled to share that I have been fortunate enough to meet some pretty successful people. And anytime I can be around someone, and I'm talking older, so boomer generation, not successful like our age. Like we think we're successful, but we're going to make money and then lose money and make mistakes and all these things, right? Get involved with the wrong woman, you'll find out real quick how fast that money goes. But someone who's had sustainable success, whenever I meet that person, and it's almost always a man, I like to ask them when I get the chance is what's it all about? All right. You got this multi-million-dollar house, you got the cars, you got all this. And I will say that every single successful, wealthy person I know has deep faith. It's not always in Christ. Sometimes they're of the Jewish faith or the Muslim faith or even the Hindi faith, but there's always a level of faith there. And so I would say if there's nothing else to cling on to because life happens, absolutely that having that strong faith is so important. Um and you are young and healthy, but I don't know if you're aware, I had some serious health issues like a year and a half ago about, and boy, did that test my faith. And I was cussing at God. I was punching my pillow, pretending it was God. And I felt so sick that I really hated God for what I was going through physically, because I'm young and I'm quote healthy and why me? And what I realize now as I walk away from that is even in that quote hatred and anger, I was still in relationship with him. I still had faith. Like, I don't understand your situation. What you doing? I hate you. And I look back on that time with such mourning, but such gratitude that even when I'm punching the pillow next to me, thinking like seriously going, Holy Spirit, this is you, punch. He was still right there next to me all the way. And so, I more than ever because of that experience, I will proclaim like it could always get deeper. I can always be better because ultimately when you are at your deathbed and I've now have a taste of what that feels like, nobody nobody's going to talk about the money you made. They're really not, unless they're talking about how they can get a piece of it. Like
Hmm.
what really is going to matter at the end of the road is like, did you serve your purpose? that purpose that was put on your heart. So I love that you said that. And I can't wait to continue listening to your incredible podcast. I love everything you're doing. I can't wait to catch up with you.
Yeah, we have to run it back and do a part 2 episode because I just see all sorts of blessings coming in both our lives. So I'm excited for the person you're becoming, Ella.
Oh
It's
my
awesome to
gosh.
meet you.
Oh, I'm so glad we met, and I'm so happy that we met at WealthCon. I'm gonna link WealthCon in the show notes as well because that was my favorite conference of all time. Like it was awesome. I can't wait to go back, and I can't wait to keep in touch, and I'm really excited to see where you are. You are a rocket ship. You are skyrocketing. It's awesome to watch your journey.
Thank you.
And thank you again.
Yes, I appreciate you. If you need anything, let me know. And for anyone out there who is looking for a community, looking for a group, I always say, people ask me, who is Dawg Days for? And I say it's for that guy who looks in the mirror and doesn't like the reflection looking back at him. I'm looking at for that person who has been struggling their mental health and they've been looking at all these different coping mechanisms and it's not enough. Or they're going through life and they don't have a purpose. They don't know what they do. They wake up in the morning just going through the motions. For those who are looking for that community, who are looking for more, Dawg Days is here for you. So you guys can find me on all my social medias at Instagram, OTW Enrique, on the way Enrique, at Dawg Days Podcast. Here to help.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening in to Eavesdrop with Ella. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, rate, or review Eavesdrop with Ella on your favorite podcast platform. While you're at it, you should also send this episode to a friend so we can connect with more eavesdroppers just like you. If you'd like to be a guest, you can visit ellaparlor.com to learn more. Until next time, this is Ella Parlor reminding you to stay resilient, stay abundant, and above all, stay balanced. Thank you for eavesdropping, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Eavesdrop with Ella, a production of EP Consulting. Some of the products and services mentioned are paid promotions, and any advice should be confirmed with a qualified professional. Opinions and ideas are for entertainment purposes only and belong to EP Consulting. All rights reserved.